plug in really.
It's crowded today.
Huh? Yeah, I'm crowded. It's up by the old Civil War Memorial. I haven't been here a long time. So it's in here someplace. On the left.
Yeah, it's right there.
So let's see, I need
Just
to
park here.
out of the way of those people. Your great-grandfather Mansur was in the 8th Wisconsin Infantry along with his brother-in-law, George Harrison. He was a member of the Beatles later. Anyway, that's where the flag is, the Civil War.
Civil War Memorial.
Mansur Plaza is basically right next to it. See there? They lost the records a long time ago. There was a sexton that kept on getting drunk. They fired him and he destroyed all the grave records before he left.
Who was that?
A sexton, the guy responsible for the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, what does that one say? Mother?
Mother.
And this one says father. And I'm pretty convinced that those two people are this guy and his wife, James Crombie Mansur.
1946, 1916. Or 1846,
Yeah.
1916. And it says Harriet and Mansur, 1848, 1928.
She was born on the trail to Salt Lake City. She was a Mormon. Of course, I guess he joined the Mormons. I don't think the Mansurs were Mormon, but I forget her original name. But she was one of the original Mormon pioneers. Here's their son.
Gotta stay out of the way of the sprinkler.
Horace. His grandfather was named Horace. And he was buried on the private property that he owned, but his gravestone was gone.
So that's the Horseshoe Bar.
Yeah.
That's Horace's grandfather?
Right.
So that says, what, that says 1877 to 1943. I think.
That's it.
Alright.
Let's see. This.
So, Dad, can you come over here?
Okay.
Because the light was really good over here. Like over here. And then, so, what else do you know about any of these three people?
Well, after they were married, they lived in Sacramento on 14th Street. He was a railroad engineer. That was the big employer in his main lifetime.
That was James?
And then they moved to, was it Lands Park? The south side thing?
Yeah, Land Park.
Land Park, yeah. And what was it? I was thinking 1954, but did he live that long? Or
1946.
Yeah.
Or so 1916 is when he died.
yeah, okay. So his they had some other children that lived over there. But anyway, for most of his life, he was a railroad engineer, and they had a house on 14th Street. It's a vacant lot now. You can see the remnants of where the house was. It's like the first or second lot, just right down from the train yard. So you
Oh,
can
yeah.
farther walk.
Right.
That's all I know. Again, she was born with the original pioneers at Salt Lake City.
And then so Horace, is he their son?
Yeah, he's their son.
And then so whose father is buried over on Horseshoe Bar?
James.
So James's dad.
It was Horace.
Okay. So wait, is Horace the son or the father?
Both.
Oh, so he's named after his grandfather.
Yes, he was.
Okay. So what's the story with Horace?
Uh,
The grandfather.
Yeah, well, he immigrated here first in September 1849 and mined along the river. He started some establishments with his partner Marcus Harrod at Horseshoe Bar. As I recall, they had 5 establishments. I know they had a boarding house, they had a bar, a livery stable, and I think probably a Smithy's place and a restaurant. The main establishment was a boarding house, apparently. And then he went back to Maine or New Hampshire, and I think 1852 got his wife, Letty, and Abby. Yeah, Abigail. She was Abigail Lighton Mansur, and their son James, and brought him back. But he had bought a house with Marcus up the street on what was the Jones Ranch. He bought the Jones Ranch. That's pretty much at the junction of Horseshoe Bar and Auburn Folsom Road. So it'd be on the northeast side corner. I think it was 160 acres. He bought that in 1854. She wrote some letters about it. She said it was, they had fewer fleas than they had down at the river. She had a hard time with that. But she caught rheumatic fever, and when she's recovering, I guess she still had a problem with the heat and her heart. And they tried taking her up to Baker's Ranch. They were trying to go farther in the mountains. It took them 2 days by carriage to get to Baker's Ranch, Marcus and Horace. And she died the next day. And I forget the date, but it's 1855. And then Marcus wrote a letter about that to her sister, share with her mother. And then he died the next year. So their 2 gravestones are still there. Hers had been broken off but recovered. And then Horace lived on till 1900, and he was buried there. But it's a 1-acre property, and a real estate lady who owns it, she's trying to sell it. So she's had guys over the years try to come and vandalize the graveyard to make it disappear. It's not an official cemetery, because even though there's 5 graves, it never got established as stuff as such by the county. Now with only 4 headstones, it makes it harder. Somebody'd have to do a sound testing to prove that there was more graves there.
So
I think there might be more graves here, by the way. I think maybe 2 or 3 more.
So who are the 5 that are over there on the Horseshoe Bar, Auburn Folsom?
I forget the other 2, but they're Abby from 1855, and then Marcus, buried there in either 1856 or 57, I forget which. And then Horace was buried there in 1900. And then there were 2 other people unrelated who probably worked on the ranch.
So, go ahead.
So after Abby died, Horace eventually married the lady across the street at the Franklin house. It was Electa Newberry Wixom. She had been married to George Wixom on the trail to Utah in 1848. And they had, what, 4 or 5 kids, I guess. But he disappears in 1861. For years I thought he was dead, and there just wasn't a record of his birth. It turns out that he went back to his original wife back in Massachusetts. In the meantime, when they moved out here, he had the boarding house he had in Massachusetts shipped around the Horn, pieces and reconstructed. And so it was originally the Miner's Inn, and then they moved it about 2.5 miles up closer to the Horseshoe Bar, and it became the Franklin House. And that was the origination of the Franklin District, District 1 in Placer County. Anyway, Electa was one of the daughters of James A. Newberry, who was converted in 1831 as one of Joseph Smith's right-hand guys. He was put in charge of leading the Mormons from Missouri to Illinois when they had the Mormon War, when they tried to exterminate the Mormons in Missouri. They got a lot of them. But he was responsible for, he's like the head of the teachers for education. And he was with Joseph Smith when he was killed. But anyway, he decided to stay in Illinois when they had the main body moved on to Salt Lake City. He had, Electa was a daughter of his first wife, I believe. He eventually had 9 wives, including a young Indian lady in his final months when he was 90. He knew how to live. So anyway, Electa was a pretty good businesswoman. When George left, she ran the Franklin House, continued to run it as a boarding house, and then when the railroad came through where Loomis is now, it pretty much put him out of business. The Auburn Folsom Road was the main road before the railroad line, and Sherman had a railroad line right next to it, so they both got put out of business. Sherman ended up being in charge of the cavalry protecting the railroad workers on the Transcontinental Railway, because he wasn't able to join the partnership. But anyway, so Electa opened a stable in Newcastle, and I think she had part of a beach, one of those places like those big buildings where they process the beaches, like we have in Loomis, a couple of them.
Right.
She had one in Newcastle. And then she and Horace were married in 1872. And they combined their assets. So their wills had the property divided between the now 6 kids, her 5 and his 1. She died in 1888, and then when he died in 1900, there's still something like 400 acres, the substantial part of which was in 12 bridges. But the state was divided up. They couldn't find one of her sons, Almond. He'd gone north to work